This one simple act of kindness turned Jessica's life upside down. She thought she was just helping a homeless man, but when he mysteriously reappeared, everything changed in the most shocking way. You won't believe who he really is and how it all ends. Stick around to find out the jaw-dropping twist that no one saw coming. Welcome to the channel. Please subscribe for more of our mind-blowing stories. It was a summer afternoon on a Tuesday when Jessica first realized that a man in an oversized khaki jacket was going around the restaurant, picking up pieces of the leftovers left on the plates as customers finished their luncheon. At first, she thought the man was one of those drunks, but she realized that even if he was drunk, no one should be hungry and thirsty, so she calmly approached him. "What can I get you, sir? Please follow me, and I will set you up at my favorite booth," Jessica told the man and gestured to him to follow her. But when the man didn't and just stood there, Jessica told him not to worry about the bill and that the restaurant had a policy of taking care of people who couldn't pay. However, as the man followed her, Jessica realized that he never looked at her, and instead, he would look down. But when he sat down, the man looked up and said thank you to Jessica, who was utterly mesmerized by the kind eyes that were staring at her. For a second, Jessica thought the man was staring at the very depth of her soul. Pointing at her name tag, Jessica told the man that her name was Jessica and that it was nice to meet him after asking him what he would like to eat for lunch. "It's nice to meet you, ma'am. I am Aaron and I would eat anything, ma'am," the man replied. But as Jessica was about to walk away to get him lunch, the man said, "I would have told you my surname too if I knew it." Jessica smiled at the man and said, "Aaron is a beautiful name." Afterward, when Jessica returned with a full tray of different plates of food, Jessica was stunned that Aaron hadn't eaten everything. Instead, he only ate the pasta and drank the orange smoothie. Aaron then asked for a bag and put the rest of the food in the bag. "I'm going to take the rest to my friends who are hungry," he told her. "Thank you for the food, ma'am. Thank you for not chasing me away," Aaron said, and left. As Jessica stood there watching Aaron leave, Daniel, Jessica's boyfriend and manager, told her that she shouldn't have done what she did. "Being kind to these blacks and homeless people is never the answer. They will use that kindness against you and will soon feel entitled," Daniel said to Jessica, who was upset with his racist remark and lack of care for people who clearly are in unfortunate situations because of things that are outside of their control. "Stop it, Daniel. I hate it when you talk like this. Do you think these people are like this because they like the idea of being looked down on, hungry and homeless?" "Have some shame," Jessica said, and went to tend to customers. However, that afternoon, Jessica kept thinking about the man she had fed. The way Aaron carried himself and the way he spoke reminded her of her friend's brother, who was a Marine. Jessica then got upset when she remembered her boyfriend's racist remark towards Aaron. Being black and homeless is not a crime, she told herself, and vowed to feed Aaron whenever he came around. But Aaron didn't return the next day, and for the next 2 weeks, Jessica didn't see Aaron. Few days later, just like the first time she met him in the restaurant, she saw Aaron standing by the restaurant door eyeing people's leftovers. Jessica was happy that Aaron returned, and fearing he would leave, she hurried to the door and asked him to come in. "Hey Aaron, we missed you. Where have you been? You know I was worried when you didn't come around. Please don't do that. Come as often as you want, and I promise there will be a plate of pasta or anything else you want with your name on it waiting for you here," Jessica gleefully told Aaron, who, despite looking down, was smiling. "If you don't mind, can I please have that plate of pasta?" Aaron said, and Jessica told him she would be back with it in a few minutes. As the chef was preparing the meal, Jessica was busy studying Aaron. She noticed that despite looking down, he was aware of everything, but whenever Aaron heard a loud sound, she also noticed that he would clench his fist as if he were about to fight someone. Jessica was convinced that Aaron was a vet who probably had PTSD and fell through the cracks. Shaking her head about how society abandons those who have lost everything to the defense of everyone, she felt angry and ashamed at the same time. She was furious that no one was taking care of veterans who had served their country, and she was ashamed that all she could do for Aaron was give him a plate of pasta. As Jessica put Aaron's pasta on the table, she asked him if it was all right if she joined him, and when Aaron nodded in affirmative, she returned to the kitchen to get her lunch. That afternoon, without exchanging words, Jessica and Aaron quietly sat and ate their lunch. But when Daniel, who had come into the restaurant, saw Jessica sitting down with Aaron, he went ballistic, shouting that no homeless person should be allowed to eat at clean tables meant for paying customers. Daniel grabbed the collar of Aaron's khaki jacket and forcefully threw him out of the restaurant. Jessica, who was furious at what was unfolding before her eyes, tried to protect Aaron from her boyfriend, but it was too late. Aaron said sorry to Jessica and walked away. "I told you, do not bring black homeless people into my restaurant," Daniel shouted at Jessica. But when another customer loudly said, "They are leeches," Jessica threw her apron at Daniel and ran after Aaron. However, as Jessica was running after Aaron, she heard the screeching of cars and a loud bang. By the time she reached Aaron, he was unconscious and bleeding from the head. Jessica yelled for help, but passers-by who came to help when they saw the homeless man went about their business without care. When an ambulance was eventually called for Aaron, he had by then lost a lot of blood, but Jessica was relieved that he was at least alive. That afternoon, Jessica didn't go back to the apartment she shared with Daniel. Instead, she spent the rest of the day and the night at a motel. The following morning, when Jessica went back to the restaurant where she had worked, Daniel was furious. "Did you spend the night with that good-for-nothing, smelly homeless man of yours?" Daniel sneered. "You know, I haven't understood until today why society are not fond of minorities and the homeless," Daniel said. He knew his racist tirade was hurting Jessica, but he didn't care. As far as he was concerned, he was doing the right thing. He was protecting his girlfriend. "I now understand that the government had done everything it can to help the black scourge and homelessness. But oh no, their persistence is admirable. They are like pests," Daniel said. Jessica was not fazed by Daniel's racist tirade. When she spoke, she said that it was over between them. She wasn't at all surprised when Daniel told her she was fired. The following morning, Jessica went to the chain's management to ask her for her pay. But when Mr. Alvin, the chain's owner, asked what the problem was, Jessica told him about Aaron and what Daniel had done. Although Mr. Alvin rebuked Jessica by telling her that the restaurant's food was only for paying customers, he relented when she told him how much food the restaurant throws away every night. Afterward, Mr. Alvin told Jessica that she could only give free meals to the homeless, whom he called bums, only 1 meal per week, and he then asked her to go back to her work. Despite his insensitivity and trash-talking about people experiencing homelessness, Mr. Alvin gave Jessica her wages for the week and the advance she had asked for, since she was going to move away from the flat she shared with Daniel into a place of her own. Moreover, Mr. Alvin also gave Jessica 3 days of unpaid leave to sort out her affairs, but the only thing he asked in return was for her to go back to the restaurant and cover the day's work, which she did. Jessica and Mr. Alvin didn't like each other, but since she went to high school with his daughter, they have both tolerated each other. Nevertheless, Jessica did her day's job as promised, despite Daniel's every effort to make things miserable for her. When Jessica got off work, she went to the hospital to look for Aaron. However, she couldn't find him. Jessica went to all the big hospitals' emergency departments, and they all told her the same thing. They had no patient who had been in an accident by the name of Aaron. Over the next few months, Jessica put up sketches of Aaron that she commissioned with her meager salary around all the homeless shelters. However, with no one coming forward with any information and the police's refusal to offer help, she was left with no choice but to let go. Every day at lunchtime, like clockwork, Jessica would stare at the restaurant door, hoping that Aaron would turn up. "I know what it feels like to be in the bottomless pit of human suffering. I know this," Jessica would tell herself whenever anyone discouraged her from looking for Aaron. But what could she do? She exhausted all her resources looking for him, so the only thing left to do was pray that all was well with him. And she did that every day. Jessica's need to help people was a life lesson she learned when she was growing up in the various orphanages around the state. As a child, she was difficult, or so was what she had been told, and by the time she was 13 years old, she had already run away from the orphanage a couple of times. Growing up on the streets, she depended on the kindness of strangers, but like Aaron's experience, most of the people she had come across were bitter and mean. She didn't know who her parents were, and she didn't care. All she ever got from them was misery and her name. She liked her name, but not the trouble that came with her life. But she was now a 25-year-old woman, and not the fragile girl she was in her childhood. She never looked for her family, but that was okay because she had a job she liked, and she was a survivor. She went to night school to learn nursing, so as far as she was concerned, things were going her way. However, what she didn't know was that her life would soon change in ways she never imagined, all thanks to Aaron, the black homeless man she tried to help. Jessica's new lease of life happened in one of those days when her eyes were glued to the restaurant's door. It was precisely around the times Aaron used to come for his lunch, when suddenly a couple of nicely dressed men whom Jessica rightly thought were personal security opened the door and stood on the sides as they ushered in a man in a suit that Jessica thought must cost 3 years' worth of her salary. As it often occurred whenever a VIP was luncheoning in the restaurant, Daniel was excited and led the men to sit them by the window, the restaurant's most beautiful spot, according to Daniel. However, the guest refused, and instead said he wanted somewhere else, pointing at the booth where Aaron and Jessica used to have their lunch. As Jessica approached the VIP with the special menu, she heard a familiar voice. "I would like to have a plate of pasta, ma'am." To Jessica's disbelief, it was her friend Aaron, the same Aaron who was a homeless man, the same Aaron she had been trying to find all these months. As speechless as Jessica was, Aaron stood up and hugged her. "My God, you look amazing, Aaron. How are you?" "I have been looking for you," Jessica said to Aaron as he hugged her. "I know you have been looking for me. I saw the sketches around town," Aaron said to Jessica. That afternoon, neither of them had lunch. Instead, they spent the whole afternoon and part of the night talking. "My father had the fortune of marrying my mother, who was born into a very wealthy family, and when her dad passed away, my parents started a lucrative business with their inheritance, so my parents are billionaires, or filthy rich, as some would say," Aaron explained to Jessica as they laughed and snarked. "So after finishing college, I joined the Marines and went to fight for my country, and when I came back, a drunk driver ran me off the road, so my car ended up in the river. So everyone thought I was dead when I, in fact, walked away with a few scratches. But the crash exacerbated a benign tumor, which I didn't know I had. So this led to losing all my memories. I have been living as a homeless person all these months, so the accident I had when I left here took me to the hospital. The hospital identified me as they had my record from previous rare visits, and that's how they got hold of my family, and that's why you couldn't find me anywhere because I was flown out of state to have the tumor removed." Over the following weeks, Aaron and Jessica were inseparable. They were so inseparable that Aaron rented the entire suites of the 5-star hotel he had been staying in because he wanted to be close to Jessica. However, when Jessica was presented with a $10 million check by Aaron's mother for being kind to her son when the world turned its back on him, it shocked everyone. Aaron's mother did not stop looking for her son all these months, and the fact that a stranger looked out for him was something she couldn't forget and was forever grateful. For the next 2 years, Jessica and Aaron got very close, and every day at lunchtime they would go to the same restaurant where Daniel still worked as a manager to have their lunch. But as it happens when two people get very close to each other, it didn't take long for Aaron and Jessica to fall in love. When Jessica graduated with her nursing degree, she also broke the news to Aaron that she was pregnant with his child. Everyone was very happy for Aaron and Jessica, but no one was happier than Maureen, Aaron's mother. That's why Maureen wasn't surprised when Jessica donated most of the money. She gifted her to a charity that ran a homeless shelter. Daniel remained in his bitter and small world, where he judged everything based on a person's skin color and circumstances. When Jessica and Aaron invited him to their wedding, He almost drank himself to an early grave. There is reciprocity in life, and as Jessica always told her friends, one act of kindness can give you a universe of blessings.